Alrighty, well, I'm back home after a little mishap yesterday. I was supposed to get home late last night, but I almost got stuck in New Jersey because of that nor'easter going through there right now. I was sitting on the runway for about 2 hours and it was a nightmare, but I made it. I'm back home, so all is well. I had a blast in New York City. Thanks to everybody that tuned in to that RSBN broadcast, that show. It was incredible. And I think that we're going to go back. I think we're on to something, you know, of all the protests that I've seen worldwide, Spain, France, Hong Kong, anywhere in the world where you see thousands of people protest. I was jealous. I was wondering when we would have one like that here, when we would have one that was even comparable to the ones you see abroad. And yesterday definitely hit the mark. So thanks to everybody that came out. That was just tremendous. And that was so good that you didn't really see anybody cover it. It took a while, but then Fox News and others started to report on what was happening. And the thing is, those optics are devastating to the establishment, to the people that want to divide us, right? Because you saw so many people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, all across the political spectrum come together in a show of solidarity, uniting for the cause of human freedom. I mean, it's really just simple. This doesn't have to be a complicated thing, it's not complex. People want freedom. They don't want to be a part of an experiment, they don't want their livelihoods threatened. It's just there's so much I can really say about New York City because that is where I think if you want to get a true pulse check on America, I think New York City is a good place. It's our largest city. It's super resilient. I mean, think about it. It went through 9/11, Hurricane Sandy, and now, the COVID-19 tyranny, right? The likes of which that city has never seen. And so the resilience of the citizens there, the workers especially, was just it's just good to be able to cover something like that. I just feel like it's extremely important to cover that because that's what the world looks to. When people around the world are oppressed, they wave the American flag, they look to America to unite and lead them. And the optics were just so good, you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, there interesting thing. The numbers are a little bit debated right now. Some people are saying there were only 5,000 that showed up. Then there were 10,000, and I actually thought, well, maybe there's about 10,000 until we got almost to the end of the bridge and my cameraman stood up on the barricade and just filmed. He just filmed as everybody that walked past us went by because we were close to the front. So there were maybe 1,000 people. I say about 1,000, 1,500 people in front of us. So I figured, let's stop at the end, stand up there, and just capture everybody walking behind. And you saw the time lapse of the video I posted. That was probably about 15 minutes of people just walking in droves. So it wasn't until then that I got the real scope of it. And I would say there was probably 30 to 40,000 people there. So it was a really good thing. It was beautiful. I know that some people don't like the sounds or the rhetoric, some of the people shouting certain obscenities. I don't have a problem with it, honestly. There's a certain authenticity to people who just speak their mind unapologetically, and that's New Yorkers in a nutshell. It's also a really tremendous opportunity for conservative media to take advantage of an untapped market, right? The fact that so many people didn't recognize RSBN, they were wondering who we were, that was huge because that told me that they weren't familiar because they may not be conservative. They may not be aware that there is media that's willing to cover them and not smear them, right? And that I think that was good. So I had to it's perfect that I was wearing the RSBN hat. I was holding my thumb up saying, "Hey, I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys," because I was getting some dirty looks, to be honest. They were a little skeptical of media presence, rightfully so, which means there's much work to do to restore any kind of trust in the media. We were there to cover it fairly, show you what happened, let you decide for yourself. Of course, I provided some commentary of what I thought, but for the most part, you take in what you see and decide for yourself. And it was very obvious and clear that this was a massive protest, very diverse, and all of the New Yorkers that are going to be impacted by this who didn't show up, because there was some demonization. I mean, if you look at the tweets that I was tagged in by RSBN, the comments were just people saying, look at the anti-vaxxer movement is on the march. They're extending this pandemic. They're so dumb. They're talking about FDNY. They're talking about first responders. People who worked all through the pandemic are now being threatened with their livelihoods being taken away. And not only that, that threatens the city, because remember what I said last week and the week before and probably the week before that. What it's going to take for your average normie, your casual observer, to wake up and see what's going on is they have to experience it for themselves. They have to experience the shortfall or the lack of law enforcement presence in their neighborhood because they weren't vaccinated, or a firefighter that can't rescue somebody. They show up late to a car accident or some kind of emergency because of the shortfall. It's going to take their trash not getting picked up, the water main not fixed in a timely manner. It's going to take something like that for them to snap out of it and realize, whoa, this is because of Bill de Blasio's mandate. He fired people. So because he fired people that didn't get vaccinated, now I have to deal with this emergency at my apartment or whatever. So it's going to take that for those people to actually wake up. And I think that's what's going to happen, because Friday is the deadline for city workers to prove that they've been vaccinated. If you see this entire crowd of people, that's a lot of people that are opposed to this mandate. Now, who knows how many of them have been vaccinated? Could just been marching alongside friends and family and coworkers that haven't gotten vaccinated. They could just be marching in favor of freedom. But I'm willing to bet the vast majority of these people have not gotten it. So, I mean, it's going to be tough for New York City. We're going to see what happens next beyond this. But I mean, if you think about it, like the taxpayers, the people who are paying all the fines in that city, or not fines, but like fees to have public services and goods available to them, after these workers are inevitably let go and fired, put on unpaid leave, are they going to see a reduction in the amount that they pay to the city to reflect the worker shortage? No. So where does all that money go? So I think people will start to wake up and see, but that's what it's going to take, unfortunately, for people to see what is going on, is these workers getting fired, losing their jobs and livelihoods. And now people are going to have to see, like, hey, this isn't working out so well. Maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't demonize law enforcement and firefighters and first responders and sanitation workers and Department of Transportation workers, et cetera, et cetera. Medical workers, teachers, everybody came together in New York City. This was beautiful. I cannot wait to go back. Meanwhile, across town, not that far away, you had the Extinction Rebellion protesters, and they had a very pathetic showing, but they snarled traffic during rush hour in the name of climate change. And if there ever was a counter protest to what we were doing yesterday, this would be it, because their entire goal is for government to step in and do something about the emerging climate crisis. You know, the omnipresent threat of climate change. Declared a state of emergency, Biden. That's what I saw a few signs that said they want it to be declared a state of emergency. Well, what does that mean? That would mean that the federal government would seize more power, more resources, more taxpayer money, and we'd ultimately be less free. Now, do these Extinction Rebellion protesters have any idea that they are basically the mouthpieces and the foot soldiers for tyrants and corrupt politicians? I mean, if you followed the money, you'd probably see that they were bought and paid for by somebody with a wicked agenda, unlike the natural, organic, grassroots protest of tens of thousands of people right? That was, if you follow the money there, you won't see anything. You'll just see people coming together. That was organized, word of mouth, flyers, etc. This smaller turnout, probably tons of money behind it, and you had nobody there. And the people there are just on the side of the state. They're just there to piss everyone else off. If you think about it, you're blocking traffic. Some would say, well, that gigantic protest of anti-vaxxers, they shut down traffic on the Brooklyn Bridge. Wrong. They actually had so many people that were there to protest, there to march, that the city was just like, all right, you guys can go ahead and just march across. And in fact, drivers, motorists, they weren't pissed. They were honking their horns and showing support. Unlike this, where they're just blocking traffic, putting more exhaust into the atmosphere in the name of climate change, saying, hey, we need government to crush us. And what they really want is government to crush you. They want their opposition crushed, even though they will be crushed in the process. I mean, what do climate change activists really want? They're saying, hey, government, you need to step in. They don't talk about private sector solutions at all. They don't care about that. They care about bringing about this Green New Deal, utopian fantasy world where we're going to drop the temperature of the planet if we just give politicians and the corporate class enough money, enough wealth, enough power and control, and we live like slaves eating mealworms and whatever else. That's what their goal is. That's their agenda, right? That's their objective, is to continue pushing the fear, the constant boogeyman of climate change. That's why they have to show images of cities underwater. Look what could happen. You know, I told you they cycle through about 3 or 4 constant, perpetual crises that they use to justify power grabs and divide us. Well, it's probably 4 now, okay? You've got climate change. They use that all the time. Public health emergency. They use that all the time. Then they switch around and then they say racism. Like, racism is a public emergency. They've called it a public health emergency. White supremacy, that's a terror threat. They use that to keep a cloud of fear over the population so that we make irrational choices like, hey, go ahead and do this. Go ahead and do this. We won't resist it at all because we just want to be safe from the threat that you've created artificially and crammed down our throats with images and propaganda and mass media. Since you've created that, we're going to be submissive when you take all the power because we know you have to take the power to save us from the threat you created. So that's climate change in a nutshell. That's the boogeyman, racist, white supremacists around the corner to hunt down all the minorities. There's that. Then the public health emergency where they're saying you're never going to be fully vaccinated. They're basically telling you, get used to it. We own your body. Nothing will change on that front. Rochelle Walensky said as much. That this is ongoing. This is it. That's why it's so important that you put your foot down now and recognize that these people are evil, that their goal is to control you. That is it. That's it. Game, set, match. The goal is to control you, and that's it. No matter what they call it, that's the game. That's the end game. Now, the people that are pounding the pavement, literally gluing themselves to the street, are just the foot soldiers for the establishment, right? And the real resistance, the real truthful resistance, you saw that yesterday. We covered it. That's what we do as a network. That's what I want to do. That's why that felt so important to me to cover, because there wasn't any coverage before yesterday of what was happening in New York. Just a few cell phones here and there, a few headlines, but we were the first to provide live coverage of the event, start to finish, because that is the real resistance. That's the real movement. That's the real energy. That's where the real energy is in America. That's what people want to see. That's where the numbers are. That's what we're providing. And that's why they won't televise it. That is exactly why. Because it's too damaging. It hurts their agenda. They don't want to see minorities on the same side as Trump supporters, BLM, not the actual organization, but like local BLM activists, people that have that belief. They put all that aside and came together under one. I don't think I even saw one Trump flag yesterday. Honestly, I don't think I did. I'm sure that there were some, but for the most part, it was American flags. It was Gadsden flags. It was a lot of signs, T-shirts, hats, etc. That was really, really powerful. And we're just getting started. I think we're going to win this war because we're aware of what's happening. People are waking up. People can see it now. People can actually see it. The energy, it just hit different. When I was in New York City, it felt like a moment of clarity, like I really saw it. Right? It was the people who promoted vaccine hesitancy last year are now lashing out with hostility against the unvaccinated this year. And they operate from a false premise. Their entire argument is based on the fact that if you do not get this vaccine, you are an anti-vaxxer, or if you don't want it, that means you are obviously sick and you're out here trying to kill people. That's why even the president of the United States, Hunter Biden's dad, the guy occupying the White House, is saying things like, your freedom, you have the freedom to kill people. You think you have that freedom? That's a mockery. And it's just a false pretense that, hey, if you don't have it, it's obviously because you're sick, you're diseased. The demonization of the others, othering people. History repeating itself. So this climate change thing is just, it's sick. That's why they have to use kids. Honestly, they have to prey on the low information population of the country. And that includes students, kids, people with impressionable minds, people that are easily susceptible to fear-based programming. Those are the ones that think that the world is going to end unless we give AOC and the people running government, unless we give them all of our money, the world's going to end. Now, I do think that a lot of these climate change protesters, I don't think they actually believe the world is going to end. I think they're bought and paid for. They're activists. Because if you think about it, the people who scream climate change, we've got to do something now. The people that scream that the most, they don't actually believe it. They're not themselves taking actionable steps right now to avoid this. They're not living and leading by example. So how serious is the threat if you yourself aren't even taking it serious? You still drive. You still have a carbon footprint. You haven't gotten rid of your iPhone. That's not good for the environment, the manufacturing process of that. I could go on and on about it, but I just don't think that the people who scream climate change the most actually believe that it's happening. So, I mean, it's just more of the same. Follow the money and you'll see that these people are it's AstroTurf. AstroTurf versus real organic grassroots, which you saw yesterday on RSBN. Now, guys, this came out over the weekend, right? You guys all know about the Fauci experiments, the torturing beagle puppies. I don't want to get even go into the details. As an animal lover, as a dog owner, as somebody with just compassion for creatures, a science nerd, there is almost nothing more despicable that a human can do than torture animals. I mean, I can't think of anything worse that you can do. Anything worse than torturing animals and children. There's almost nothing more despicable. I can't think of one thing. And yet, you have people who seem to be unfazed by these new developments with Fauci. I don't see much outrage. Of course, mainstream media absolutely won't cover this. They cannot. He's been their darling for the past 18 months. They love him. There's a documentary about this man. Aren't you starting to notice a pattern that the most evil people seems to get celebrated and elevated and superimposed over Everything else is like, hey, look at this. Fauci, ouchie, he's so great. It just seems like the Fauci cult is completely unfazed. They celebrate him. It's like they celebrated Andrew Cuomo, somebody who put COVID infected patients in nursing homes. And what did he do? He got an Emmy for it. Fauci's getting documentaries. They wanted him to get the Nobel Peace Prize, which we all know that that's nothing, but it's a celebratory gesture to say, hey, look at how amazing you are. They've got statues of George Floyd. He held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. He was no saint, though they treat him as such. He is now a deity. Fauci is treated as some high priest. So it's a pattern. They celebrate evil. They celebrate success by failure. That's how they measure success. They look at your failure and see it as a success. So you've got a man here who lied to Congress, no consequences. Lied about the origins, no consequences. Flip-flopped on every single position from the beginning, no consequences. And then we find out that the gain of function research, that was all him. And then we find out about the beagle torture and the animal torture spanning 40 years with no results shown. Like, hey, was this whatever you were doing with this? What was the result? You want to lock beagles in the desert and have sandflies eat them alive and then pour acid on monkeys' brains? I mean, what is going on here? People who still support this man, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Where is the outrage? People have been outraged for way less. Donald Trump tweeted a thing, and this is just such an outrage. Mad about words that Trump tweeted, mad about what Ron DeSantis said about this, but radio silence about animal torture, beagle puppies, monkeys, animal torture. This god-awful, despicable, wicked man. And will he face any consequences? No. You see Congress, a bipartisan coalition of people in Congress, calling for him to be fired and resign. Is that enough? Does that go far enough? Oh, he just needs to resign. I can't even look at the images of it. It's just it's so cruel. So cruel. And I never thought I'd be on the side of PETA, but here we are. They pinned it to the top of their tweets now. The U.S. government must stop pumping money into horrific animal experimentation. It's POTUS Biden's responsibility to designate an NIH director who chooses human relevant research. They can't even say his name. Well, hey, you got to take what you can get with PETA. I mean, at least this is finally on their radar instead of Captain D's and Long John Silver's having non-fish items on their menu. At least they're focused on the right things now. I think the calls to not only fire Fauci, but prosecute Fauci need to reach a fever pitch. They just need to be loud. Although it's probably wishful thinking, since you're basically asking the system to investigate itself, the system to hold itself accountable. Just like Epstein wasn't held accountable, how is Fauci going to be held accountable? But still, at the very least, you can just always remind your friends and family, like, hey, here's your daily reminder that the guy who continues to be paraded around the media funded animal torture spanning 40 years. You can just remind friends and family that, just continue to remind them about his egregious acts, his crimes against humanity. Remind them, hey, the media wants you to hate me for being unvaccinated, instead of being mad at the guy whose money, your taxpayer money, this guy used it. This unelected health bureaucrat used your money that you work hard for to fund a virus that you're now mad at me that I won't get vaccinated against. And of course, his evil experimentation on animals, this god-awful person, this mad scientists. That's not even it. It's not just that. Now we're finding out that he was operating on AIDS patients back in New York City. I'm sorry, AIDS orphans. Experiments on AIDS orphans in New York City in 2004. This just came out. I know this is daunting. I know this is sad. I know you guys don't like it, but that's what we have to talk about, because this is the guy that his opinions, his perspective, his research has partly been to blame for why we are where we are now, why people are triple covering their faces, why people are afraid of germs, walking around every day afraid of germs. So it's just another evil thing that Fauci will maybe not ever be held accountable for. But you got people out here afraid of germs, fully vaccinated, afraid of germs, and mad at you because you won't live in that same state of fear as them. Speaking of germs, I'm going to play this video without sound because it's got some, I don't know, melody or something that sounds like it could get flag me for copyright. But speaking of germs, here's Hunter Biden's dad spreading them, coughing in his hand. And this is yesterday in New Jersey, coincidentally, right across the Hudson River. So he coughs in his hand. He's not wearing a mask, obviously. And then he proceeds to shake a bunch of hands. Talk about not leading by example. I'm not surprised, but the people who just pretend like nothing's happening, he's building back better, this is all good, better than Trump, they don't know about this. They need to see it. Coughing in his hand, no mask, and then goes and shakes hands. I thought we were in this massive public health crisis, and this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And, you know, people with all this freedom in mind are the ones that are the problem, you know, the demonization. But here he is over here spreading his germs on camera. How did his handlers just let him get away with this? They got to limit his public appearances, I guess. Lord knows if I would have known that he was going to be in New Jersey, I would have seen what we could do to organize some kind of protest over there, see what the energy was like over there to greet the most popular president we've ever seen in a very blue state. Surely you'd see a lot of Biden fans there. But I had no idea he was going to be in town. But hey, there he is spreading germs over there in New Jersey while we're in this public health emergency, you know. The public health emergency where hospitals are overwhelmed, yet we're firing doctors and nurses who worked all through the pandemic, but now we got to fire them because they don't want to take the vaccine. But hospitals are overwhelmed. Remember, all these things make sense. Hospitals overwhelmed, pandemic of the unvaccinated. The heroes, nurses and doctors of last year are now the COVIDiots and the science deniers of this year, and we must fire them. Right? But his replacement here, this is another video from over the weekend. She's getting worse. She's getting worse. I mean, she's unpopular. She's awkward. She's phony. And here's her trying to be relatable.
I have a motto. I eat and drink no for breakfast. Don't hear it.
It's so cringe, guys. It's so cringe. Oh, just, I feel like she's going to be taken over soon. And that's why she's making public appearances, and she's got these hired actors, child actors, to talk about space exploration. And she's just trying to appear normal and relatable. And she's always been phony like this, which is why she was on the Breakfast Club talking about, I listened to Tupac and I smoked weed, but I locked people up for weed too. I think she's going to be replacing old Joe sooner or later because he's unwell. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, we did just focus on the fact that he coughed and then shook a bunch of hands, but over the past couple of weeks, I've seen him cough a lot more. We've obviously seen him trip up the stairs and he doesn't know where he's going, and he's telling all these stories, and he's got the signs of early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. It's really sad. It's elder abuse, but I mean, I can't say I necessarily feel bad for the guy, but that's where we are. I think that She's going to be replacing him at some point in his term. We just don't know when. It might be early next year. They're going to make the transition. They have to, because they have to start thinking about 2022 and 2024. So they need this optic to kind of go away. But who they replace him with is her. Just think about all the people they could have rigged into the seat. They chose him. The worst possible person that you have to cover for and prop up and protect and make seem sane, normal, competent, rational. You pick the worst guy to do it. Weekend at Bernie's. Shocker, right? Here's another shocker. The Biden effect. Thanksgiving 2021 to be the most expensive meal in history of the holiday. Get ready for that if you're even able to get your pumpkin and turkey and dressing and everything else you eat. How much you want to bet there'll be a shortage on turkeys? Of course, the cost will be through the roof. But hey, he's building back better. That's why he's traveling the country to build back better. Let me find out he's coming to Florida for a Build Back Better. And we will line the streets. Floridians will line the streets to greet this man. I can't wait. I know it's coming. He's got to make a stop in Florida because it's a key state that he did not carry, that he wants to carry, that the Democrats are constantly gunning for. So I have no doubt he'll be here to promote his Build Back Better agenda. And when he does show up, he's going to get a warm Floridian welcome. I cannot wait for it. But yeah, guys, your Thanksgiving is going to be a little bit more expensive this year. Can't wait to see how the media spins that one. I think I just lost my last link. I don't know what it was, but it's all good. I got through everything much quicker today, only 30 minutes. I really didn't have a lot of time to do some research and pull up a bunch of topics, which is probably good. Because I mean, now I can shoot the breeze, maybe look at the chat, see what's going on. What else, guys? I think I covered everything. I really did, honestly. I will always pull up some Gateway Pundit and see what news topics might be trending. But in the meantime, let's look up the chat here. Let's see what's going on with you guys. God bless you. Thank you for being here. Please smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe and hit that bell notification. I appreciate everybody for being here. Everybody that supports this channel, helps keep it going. Shout out to the moderators. Shout out to the salty army out there. I got a lot of salty supporters. A lot of them. Love y'all. All this craziness going on. Sometimes you have to just embrace the clown world. Sometimes you just have to laugh at it, because if you don't laugh, you'll be crying. And that's kind of what it is. Oh my gosh, here we go again. Trump is the father of the vax and still promotes it. How dumb can you be? So because he promotes it, that's bad? I have no problem with the vaccine. I have no problem with people promoting it. Let them do it. Actually, I prefer people don't promote it. Just say what it is, where I can get it. Let me do my own research. Let me decide if I want it, and then go from there. But don't try to convince me. Don't twist my arm. Don't say you'll drive me to get it. Don't bribe me. Don't shame me. Don't lash out at me. And don't mandate it. Don't force me. That's it. Stop trying to make this about Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome if that's all you can think about. You're more worried about Trump saying, yes, the vaccine, get it. You're more worried about that than the fact that people on the left who hate Trump are actually mandating it. And don't forget that last year, when Trump was promoting it, the people who are mandating it this year were vaccine hesitant last year. So why don't you focus on that? Stop letting Trump live in your head rent free. It's not healthy. If you're going to just continue to hammer on that point, you're just showing that you're not healthy. You're not well. You have Trump derangement syndrome. So give it a rest. Get your head in the game and realize that right now, medical tyranny is happening in your country. And everybody watching this stream right now, every last one of you knows, if Trump were in office right now and mandated the vaccine, the entire left would be marching. They would be so against it. This is an attack on our freedom, our human rights. He's Hitler incarnate. That's what they would be doing. And you know what? I would be on their side, protesting against it as well. I don't care who's in office. I don't care who it is. If somebody wants to mandate medicine for me, then I'm going to stand against them. So that's what I have to say about that. Someone said, you're spitting facts. I'm just telling that this is like the most obvious truth in the world. Who could deny that people would be super duper anti-vax if he were in office right now? Everybody knows it. Matter of fact, I know plenty of people right now who would not get it if he were in office, especially if he made it mandatory. And how do I know that's true? Because all of these people who are shaming you for not getting it were all against it last year. Literally, Biden and Kamala had multiple statements last year where they're like, who's going to get it first? You? Kamala said, if Trump says take it, I'm not taking it. She literally said that. So you're just going to bypass that and forget it and ignore it? So what did she learn? It's the same vaccine companies. It's still Moderna and Pfizer, because people had such egregious, crazy Trump derangement, Looney Tune beliefs in their head that it was him concocting it and stirring it up like, I'm going to check the arms of liberals with my evil vaccine. That's what you thought in your head. You thought it was Trump actually doing it. It's just so dumb. So dumb. Abbott built the wall. Good luck with that, man. I don't know. Let me not start on Abbott today because people get really upset when I provide fair criticisms of him. I don't say anything irrational about Abbott. I don't have Abbott derangement syndrome. I just point out things that I've noticed with his leadership and some of the flaws and how he could be better. Honestly, it'd be better if Abbott would just improve. Just get better, Abbott. That's it. That's all you need to do. Take a stronger stand. Let's go, Brandon. There was a lot of let's go, Brandon chants, man. That's just it's taking the world by storm, you guys. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's saying it. It's shooting up the charts. It's number 1 on iTunes. It was number 1 on Spotify. And when you ban something because they try to block it so people can't see it and hear it, that just makes them want to see it more. Don't they ever learn the Streisand effect? Don't they ever just figure it out? Shot heard around the world. Not sure what that means, what you're referring to. Abbott not doing too bad. Yeah, he's not doing too bad, but he could do better. That's for sure. Let's Go, Brandon by Two Different People are the top 2 songs, beating Adele. Yeah, I heard about that. That's wild. Beating out Queen Adele. They're not happy about that. It's like they're not happy about Dave Chappelle. Again, the Streisand effect. I didn't even know Dave Chappelle had a new stand-up until I saw that they were protesting against him. And so that I went to go watch it, of course. I'm a Dave Chappelle fan. He's a relic. He's somebody that, one of the last real true comedians that will speak his mind. And because people are now looking into it, like, well, let me go watch the Netflix special before they try to ban it. Then they find out, wow, he's actually going on tour. So now it just has the opposite effect. All those people butthurt and bent out of shape over Dave Chappelle saying words, but don't have anything to say about them promoting child pornography with cuties. Nobody cares about that. They're mad at Dave Chappelle for telling adult jokes to an adult audience, but they don't care about 11-year-old girls dressed in skimpy clothes dancing sexually for adult pleasure. They don't care about that. That's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. That's how you know we're in a fallen state. If you are in Virginia, you need to vote. Here's what's confusing about Virginia. I thought Ralph Northam was I know he's the governor now, but is his term ending? Is he not up for re-election? Is he not eligible for re-election? Because I remember, I want to say it was 2018 or something, is when Ralph Northam was elected. I remember the entire campaign where they ran a propaganda hit piece ad on his opponent, Ed Gillespie. And do y'all remember that? They had this guy in a pickup truck with a "Don't Tread on Me" and a Confederate bumper sticker on the back. And he was riding down a road, and you saw a bunch of minority and immigrant children running from this pickup truck. And I think the guy had on a MAGA hat, and they just basically painted Ed Gillespie as this vicious bigot chasing down minority children. And then you come to find out that it was Ralph Northam that dressed in blackface or a Klan robe. We still don't know. There's a picture of somebody in blackface and a Klan robe, and we know one of them is Ralph Northam, and he won't tell us which one it is. Both really bad. So funny how these kinds of acts, it's almost like karma. It really almost is. You treated your opponent like this awful racist, and then it's you dressed in blackface and a Klan robe multiple times. He admitted it. Dressed in blackface because he was doing a Michael Jackson impersonation. That's your governor. But is he not up for re-election? I just don't know. Okay, so he's not running. Okay, I figured that. I just was confused at first when I saw Virginia's having. Is this a special election? I don't know. It's just weird. They must be really concerned that they could lose the state of Virginia, because why else would they be campaigning so hard for whatever the guy's name is that's running, the Democrat, of course. They must be really concerned about it. But it just seems like the people that are pointing the finger, are the ones that are guilty of some of the crimes that they, blame others for. Alec Baldwin is a perfect example of somebody who's been super anti-gun, and now he's got a body count. Alec Baldwin has a body count. So, there's that. And by the way, somebody's head needs to roll, not literally. You have to say that for YouTube. They're going to demonetize this video anyway. But somebody's got to pay the piper for this. You can't just kill somebody and then nobody goes to jail for it. There needs to be manslaughter charges or something. Think about if you were a family member of the victim. Wouldn't you want to see justice, not just, oops, my bad, didn't know it was a loaded gun. It's their fault. And I know there's a lot more details to the story. It's really a screwed up thing. I'm just saying, what's going to be the end result? Instead of Alec Baldwin just, oh, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. Can I pay for the funeral? Can I buy your silence? Please don't sue me. Can he buy his way out of it? We know we have a two-tier justice system, so we'll see. He's lawyered up, believe me, of course. But what about the family? Blaming others for which you are guilty is in the book of rules for radicals. Yep. That is straight out of the book of rules for radicals. Ralph Northam supports post-delivery abortion. Yeah. Imagine if they found out, imagine if, the people who are pro-choice, imagine if you found out that they were killing puppies instead of babies. They would shut down Planned Parenthood. It'd be a wrap overnight. Or if they were aborting puppies, people just would look at it completely different. Just like they do with the gun debate. They do it all the time. If you shoot a dog, you're evil. But if you shoot a human, guns are evil. That's basically the logic. Blame the gun when it's expedient. Blame the person when it's not. The rightful person, the person who should be blamed when it's not expedient, then you place the blame where it needs to go. But when it's something you can political posture on, then yeah, blame that object, that inanimate object. And those gun control activists are just quiet as church mice after Alec Baldwin killed an innocent person. How does that work? Very interesting. I don't think we'll hear much about the gun control debate over that one. Just like you don't hear about it with all of the shootings that go on every single weekend in cities all across the country. It's just another random statistic. Oh, another murder in Chicago, huh? 32 shot in Chicago, 5 fatally over violent weekend. Don't you see that headline like every Monday? Every single Monday. Here's how many people were shot in Chicago. Here's how many people died. Why they single out Chicago, other than the fact that it's the third largest city, I have no idea. There are much more dangerous cities than Chicago per capita, and there's no mention of it. I mean, even places like Memphis last year, like 35 kids were shot in Memphis last year. 35 kids. Did you even know that? No, you didn't know that because nobody ever reports on it. And they can't use it to go after guns and blame evil white supremacists for it because they know it's black people doing it. They know it. It's a black city. Memphis, Tennessee is a black city. The gunfire in Memphis is from black people. They're not going to even try to assert that gun control argument there. Not even, they're just going to completely ignore it. Black lives matter, but we're not talking about what goes on in Memphis or St. Louis or the dangerous parts of other cities. We're just not talking about it. It's just not on the table. So shut up, bigot. Norm Anderson, thank you for the super chat. God bless you. How about Trump Jr. making those t-shirts? Yeah, I saw that. I saw the Trump, the t-shirts. Personally, it's not my taste. I wouldn't wear it. I think at the very least, it's like maybe a meme. Although I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, it's like, yeah, Alec Baldwin sucks to suck. But at the same time, we're talking about somebody that lost their life, an innocent person. And people using that situation to, let's just say I wouldn't do it. That's not something that I support. I mean, I guess you could say it's kind of ironic more so than funny, but I feel like I would feel embarrassed if I were wearing that shirt in public. It's a bad look. I just think it's awful considering, yes, no matter how much you think Alec Baldwin sucks, he killed somebody, their life was lost and nobody even talks about it. I just think that's, I don't know. Could just be me. Wow, I didn't know her husband was a cronies of them. I'm not sure I'm not sure her husband was the cronies of them. I don't really understand that syntax quite. I don't know. Trump is not your friend, says Angelina Marie. You're still stuck on Trump. You're the same one that was talking about Trump promoting vaccines. So it's official that Trump lives in your head rent free. Okay, gotcha. All these topics I'm covering, and you just keep thinking about Trump. Do not believe either side. Okay, so who should we believe? Please tell us. Provide us some wisdom on this stream. Who are we supposed to believe? Please, let me know. Drop some wisdom on us. Just did a line of Oreos. Is that wrong? I mean, to each their own. They're addictive. I've done lines of Oreos. They're delicious. I wouldn't word it that way because it makes you think of something else, but I get what you're talking about, the package, the way that they're lined up in there. Try to transition away from Oreos if you can. They got high fructose corn syrup in them and other awful stuff. Plus, Oreo's woke. Oreo wants you to know that Black Lives Matter. They tweeted it out last year. I'm like, just shut up and sell cookies. That's your job. And worry about your high fructose corn syrup and your awful ingredients. Big time TDS. Trump is gone. Fool, you probably helped make that happen. It's all about brain dead Biden now. Oh, you're responding to what's her name? Angelina. Trump is the father of the VAX. Okay. Whatever that means. Satan is the father of lies. You should probably stop following him with your Trump derangement syndrome. As long as you keep it civil, you can stay in the chat. It's fine. But if you start spamming, you're out of here. So you can continue to say your crazy, weird stuff in the chat, and we'll just ignore you for the most part. But if you get weird, you're gone, just so you know. I don't play that. And neither do my moderators. The reason why she was killed from source, her husband has some ties to Hillary Clinton, and supposedly this was a thing. The lady he shot was going to come out with a pedo documentary. Oh my gosh. No way. Is that real? I know that people like to make the joke like, oh, yeah, that squirrel had information that would lead to the arrest of the Clintons. A squirrel that's dead on the road or something. I know that people oftentimes try to tie the death of a high profile person to the Clintons. And while it's funny, it also, if there's some truth to somebody dying, if you're saying everybody who dies is tied to the Clintons, then that's like saying everything is racist, and then we don't know what's actually racist. So if that is actually true, send me a credible source, something on it. Email it though. Don't post it here. Send it to MikeNificent813@gmail.com. All righty. Yes, they were related to government people. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot to that Alec Baldwin story. It's weird. Angelina says, I follow Jesus, not any politician. Okay, good for you. Are you about to make a straw man argument and say that we're following a politician? No, we're not. We're actually not. In fact, you heard me say that if Trump himself made the vaccine mandatory, I would say, sorry, Trump, no longer supporting you. If he made it mandatory, which he wouldn't, he didn't. He didn't say it would be mandatory. I don't have any loyalty to a politician at all. Never have. So don't even try it if you're thinking about making that little straw man argument. I just stopped you dead in your tracks. Something's fishy with the Baldwin shooting. Yeah, it's very fishy. It's very, I mean, who loaded the gun? Somebody knew it was loaded. I mean, they've obviously had instances before with accidental discharge, or maybe not. Workers walked out and protested against it, like not wanting to work. Just National Jones says, great show. Thank you so much. I got through the topics in like 30 minutes today because I didn't have a lot. I mean, I was supposed to get back last night, but I was almost stuck in New Jersey. I would actually still be there because the weather hasn't improved as far as I know. It was actually starting to get bad last night, and I wouldn't have made it out today. I would still be there. So I was supposed to go get back last night. I didn't get back until this morning. I'm basically running on fumes. So, yeah. Anyway, there was a huge fight amongst the workers the day prior about their pay. Assistant director handed loaded gun to Alec. He was the same assistant director on set of Crow Salvation, in which Brandon Lee died from a prop gun as well. Yeah, that's another weird thing. It's something that I haven't done enough digging into, and I don't know that I will, because what's going to happen ultimately? What would be the results of it? Is somebody going to prison for this? Is somebody even going to be charged for this? I mean, they're already calling it an accident. How do you call it an accident before there's a full investigation? Your broadcast on the NYT protest was Mike Nificent. Oh, thank you. I think you meant NYC. NYT. NYC. Thank you. I felt like it was a really good opportunity. I'd seen so many other uh, friends that I have in New York City and other social media posts about what's going on there. And I'm like, man, this is something that needs to get covered. I mean, you have more coverage here of what goes on in France. You see more coverage of protests in France and Spain and Italy and the UK than you'd see of protests here. So that was a massive one. And I can't wait to see what the next one is. I think there's going to be another one. There has to be. I mean, the deadline is Friday for people to get vaccinated, or they're going to be on unpaid leave. So what happens next? It never said Baldwin. Okay, I'm over the Baldwin thing, honestly. What else is going on in the world today? I got the Gateway Pundit pulled up. I like Gateway Pundit. I like Zero Hedge. I like Breitbart. They're pretty good. There's some whistleblower or some leaked, some Project Veritas thing about New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy is planning to implement a statewide vaccine mandate after he's reelected. I mean, that's not really a shocker. Like, what difference would it make if he implemented it now versus after? I don't think it would be a drop in the bucket in terms of people that vote the other way. Like, oh no, he's a tyrant, I'm going to vote Republican now. Like, if you didn't think you should have voted this man out of office before this, then what difference would it make if he, imposed a vaccine mandate now? Would that really change your perspective? Biden admits he hides from reporters when he was talking to kids yesterday, talking to a classroom in New Jersey. I think it's huge, though. Let me go back really quick to the NYC workers' protest against mandates. I mean, if you think about like GM and Southwest, when those workers walk out and then the bottom line of that company is impacted, those companies tend to turn around and say, hey, maybe this is a bad idea. We couldn't force you to do this. So we're hurting for it. So we're gonna nix that whole plan. It was a bad idea. Please forgive us. I think that New York City workers, mainly fire department and law enforcement, two very important public services provided to that city, the largest city in the country, 8 million people, densely populated in 300 square miles. It's a lot of people there. So there's a lot of accidents. There's a lot of fires. There's a lot of crime in a small concentrated area. If you get that many of your heroes, your first responders, people that work on the front line, you get that many people not working, you're going to get a lot of normies in that city to wake up real quick. And maybe this is what turns the tide in New York City. I think because these tyrants, the people that have seized all this power, they feel so arrogant. They're so cocky and confident right now. They're overplaying their hand like massively. And it's going to come back to bite them. So I think because they're overplaying their hand, thinking, yeah, we can just gamble with the safety and health of New York City because we got to make a statement here. Look at how responsible we are. We're locking down our citizens. Well, those citizens that are standing by, once they see their trash isn't picked up and crime goes up in their area, even the safe areas, and there's no cops or firefighters there, then what are they going to do? I think they're going to actually start to pay attention, and you might see changes. There's no better group of people to protest against mandates than firefighters, police officers, doctors, pilots, people whose jobs you just can't replace. You can't just replace that overnight. So I think that that's good, and we'll see what comes of it. But in New York City, And we'll see what kind of domino effect that it can have on the rest of the country. There was an article that claimed that Biden is considering doing education camps for the people who refuse the jab. Man, that's not happening. Nike is slave labor. Yeah, it is. Biden is a demented old man, evil, demented old man. I'll never be sad for him. Yeah, I don't think I will either. No, not after everything he's said and done over the years. He knows exactly what he's doing. He serves the father of lies too. Corrupt old man that was once a corrupt young man. Never created a job, never owned a business, never worked in the private sector. Always been a public servant. Enriched his family on your dime. I was a nurse for 25 years. We were always forced vaccinated. I just don't think it's a good idea. It's wrong. It's wrong to let other humans have control over you. Why? Why do people submit to that? Like, let's just have a small group of people that we give all of our trust and money to and let them control us. Why? It is wrong. It's absolutely wrong. All right. I guess where are we at on time? We're at an hour already. Dang, man, the time just really does fly, doesn't it? I was looking for some other like relevant topics, but I can obviously save those for tomorrow. Tomorrow's another day. New York City is united, though. That's the big takeaway from my visit yesterday. That city is united, and it felt good to witness that. Isn't that what we all want? We all want to see people unified, come together, put their political differences aside, put their beliefs aside, and stand for human freedom. There's almost no greater cause. Maybe standing for the unborn, standing up for the vulnerable, animals. You got this glorified Dr. Evil out here experimenting on animals, torturing puppies. And the Fauci cult is just unfazed. You just don't hear anything about it. Granted, mainstream media will not touch this, at least not now. It'll come out later. Because this story, this whole thing, this reveal, this is from months ago. It just now hit the fan for whatever reason. But there's nothing more sick than a person who tortures animals, hurts animals and children. Two of the most despicable acts a human can commit. So, with that said, guys, I'm going to head on out. I'm going to spend an hour. I'm going to get ready for the family to come home. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in today. Please, if you would, give this stream a thumbs up. It is so important. Give it a thumbs up so that I can overcome YouTube's algorithms. Sometimes the people won't even see my stream. A lot of my subscribers don't even get notified. You have to have notifications set or you won't see my videos. It's not just going to show up and recommended. And the only way for that to really even change or begin to change is if people give it a thumbs up. You have to give it a thumbs up. The engagement is what helps promote it. And, people see it on the recommended page or wherever else on YouTube. Sharing is also another important aspect of it too. But at the very least, give it a thumbs up. All right. I'm about to head out, but I appreciate everybody for tuning in. God bless the chat. God bless the super chatters. God bless the moderators, everybody that tunes in, supports. God bless you guys. I'll catch you in the next stream.